You are looking at the most misunderstood 3 minutes of the entire US Open. On the surface, this looks like a standard medical meltdown. Karolina Muchová, a player famous for her fragile body, stops midway through a service game. She walks to the back of the court. She buries her face in a towel. She starts sobbing. The commentators immediately did what they always do. They diagnosed her from the booth. They talk about her wrist surgery. They talk about her knees. They talk about the tragedy of a talent betrayed by her own physique. But they were wrong. If you look closely at the footage, you will see that she isn't holding her wrist. She isn't testing her ankle. Before the tears start, her eyes lock on a specific seat in the lower bowl, exactly 3 rows behind the photographers. She doesn't look in pain. She looks terrified. This was not a medical timeout. This was a security breach. And today on NetCourt News, we are going to break down exactly how a dangerous loophole in Grand Slam ticketing allowed an unwanted figure from Muchová's private life to sit feet away from her during the biggest match of her season. We are going to look at the lip-reading evidence the broadcast missed, the haunting parallel with Emma Raducanu earlier this year, and the financial catastrophe Muchová narrowly avoided by winning a match she had every right to abandon. To understand the severity of this incident, you have to understand the specific pressure cooker Karolina Muchová was standing in. We are in the second round of the US Open. She is playing Sorana Cirstea. The score is 1-4 in the first set. For most players, a second-round match is routine. For Muchová, it is a fight for survival. She is defending semi-final points from the previous year. In the brutal mathematics of the WTA rankings, defending points is harder than earning them. If she loses this match, she doesn't just go home, she drops out of the top 20. She loses her seeding protection for the Australian Open. We are talking about a swing of nearly 1,500 ranking points and a prize money difference of over $100,000. The match starts poorly. She's down a double break. The narrative is that she's rusty. But look at the Hawkeye data from the first 3 games. Her average serve speed is 108 miles per hour. Her forehand depth is hitting the baseline. She isn't playing badly. She is distracted. At 1-4, 30-30, the rhythm breaks. Tennis is a sport of repetitive motion. You have 25 seconds to serve. You follow the same routine every time. Towel, ball bounce, toss, hit. It is a trance. Muchová breaks the trance. She steps back from the line. She looks up. When a player looks at their box, they are usually looking for tactical validation. They want their coach to nod. They want their father to clap. They're looking for safety. Muchová looks at the seats opposite her player box. This is crucial. The player box is a sanctuary. It's filled with your team. The seats opposite are general admission. Anyone with a credit card can sit there. And that is where he was sitting. According to translations of the Czech press conference that followed this match, the man sitting in that seat was her ex-boyfriend. But this wasn't a friendly reunion. Muchová described him as someone who shows up at places where he shouldn't be. She said his presence scared her. Imagine the psychological violence of that moment. You are alone on a court in front of 20,000 people. You are trying to perform a high-precision athletic skill, and suddenly, in your direct line of sight, is the person you have been trying to escape. The reaction is immediate. It's the classic fight-or-flight response. Her body shuts down. She walks to the chair umpire, Alison Hughes. The microphones on Arthur Ashe Stadium are designed to pick up the ball striking the strings, not the whispers at the chair. But if you watch the exchange, you can see Muchová is not asking for a physio. She is pointing. She is pleading. Alison Hughes is one of the most experienced umpires in the game. Watch her face. She doesn't check her watch. She doesn't give a time violation warning. She leans in. She listens. She realizes this is not a tennis problem. This is the dark side of the tour that the breakpoint cameras don't show you. The tennis court is supposed to be a fortress. Security checks bags at the gate. They scan tickets, but they don't scan personal histories. There is no database that flags a ticket holder as a toxic ex-partner or a stalker. Unless there's an active police restraining order that has been registered with tournament security in advance, anyone can buy a ticket to the front row. Muchová returns to the baseline, but she can't serve. The tears come. These are not tears of physical pain, they are tears of violation. She feels unsafe in her own workplace. This incident is even chilling because we've seen it before. In fact, Muchová has seen it before. Earlier this year at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, Muchová was on the other side of the net when Emma Raducanu had a similar breakdown. Raducanu spotted a man in the crowd who had followed her from Singapore to the Middle East, a man who had exhibited fixated behavior. Raducanu was visibly shaken. She was crying on court. Muchová stood there, confused, waiting for play to resume. Now, 6 months later, the roles are reversed. Muchová is the one paralyzed by an intruder. The difference here is the response. In Dubai, the security situation escalated. Here at the US Open, we saw a glimpse of the terrifying ambiguity of these roles. Muchová asks the umpire to remove him, but on what grounds? He isn't shouting, he isn't throwing things, he's just sitting there. Under the strict letter of the Grand Slam rulebook, a spectator can only be ejected for disruptive behavior. Is staring disruptive? Is existing disruptive? This is the loophole. Psychological disruption is not codified in the rules. The umpire is in a bind. She cannot technically eject a paying customer for sitting quietly, even if his presence is psychologically torturing the player. So Muchová has to do it herself. She wipes her face, she looks back at the man. We don't know exactly what changed. Perhaps security had a quiet word. Perhaps the pressure of the cameras turned on him was too much. But eventually, he leaves. But the damage is done. Muchová is down 1-4. She's emotionally shattered. The betting markets have completely written her off. The live odds on Cirstea winning in straight sets dropped to 1.05. The commentators are already writing the obituary for her ranking. If she loses this match, the fallout is massive. Let's do the math. Muchová entered this tournament ranked inside the top 15. She's defending 720 points. A second-round exit earns you only 70 points. That is a net loss of 650 points. In the condensed rankings of the WTA, that drop sends her tumbling down to number 25 or 26 in the world. Why does that matter? Because the top 24 seeds at the majors are protected. If you drop to 26, you can draw Iga Swiatek or Arbarina Sabalenka in the first round of the next slam. It is a death spiral. One bad match caused by a security breach can set your career back 18 months. And then there's the money. The prize money difference between a second-round loss and a quarterfinal run is roughly $400,000. That's the bill for this security failure, $400,000 and a year of career progress. So what happens next is nothing short of miraculous. Muchová steps back to the line at 1-4. She's still wiping her eyes between points, but something in her game shifts. Usually, Muchová is an artist. She likes to construct points. She uses the slice, the drop shot, the lob. She plays with time. But after the incident, she stops playing with time. She starts trying to kill the ball. She holds serve with 2 aces and a service winner. Then she breaks Cirstea. Watch the body language change. She isn't looking at the crowd anymore. She's looking at the strings of her racket. She's narrowing her world down to the 78 feet of the court. It's a dissociation technique. If she acknowledges the room, she acknowledges the fear. So she blocks out the room. She claws back to 4-4. The crowd, sensing the drama but not understanding the cause, starts to get behind her. They think they're cheering for an injured player fighting through pain. They don't realize they're cheering for a woman fighting through harassment. She takes the first set in a tiebreak 7-0, a perfect tiebreak. The second set is a war. Cirstea is playing well. She takes it 7-6. Now we're in a decider. 2 hours have passed from the tears. The physical toll of that emotional spike usually causes a crash. Adrenaline is a finite resource. When you burn it all in a panic attack in the first set, you are usually empty by the third. But Muchová refuses to fade. At 4-4 in the third, she hits a running forehand pass that clips the line. It is the shot of a player who is completely dialed in. She breaks, she serves for the match. When she wins, there is no massive celebration. She doesn't fall to her knees. She walks to the net, shakes hands, and packs her bag. She wants to get out of there. In the press conference, she kept it brief. She said, "It wasn't tennis related. I don't like to talk about it, but my ex-boyfriend sat down opposite my bench. He sometimes shows up at places where he shouldn't be. That startled me a bit." That startled me a bit is the understatement of the year. This incident forces us to ask a hard question about the WTA Tour. We talk constantly about player welfare. We talk about shortening the season to prevent injuries. We talk about mental health days. But what are we doing about physical safety? Tennis players are the most accessible athletes in the world. In the NBA, the fans are 50 feet away behind a barrier. In the Premier League, there is a moat of security. In tennis, the fans are 5 feet from the towel bin. We love this intimacy. It makes the sport visceral, but it also makes the players vulnerable. How was a man with a history of showing up where he shouldn't be allowed to buy a ticket 3 rows from the court? Why is there no mechanism for a player to flag a no entry list to tournament security before the draw is made? The technology exists. Facial recognition is used at stadiums all over the world to ban hooligans. Why can't it be used to ban stalkers? If Karolina Muchová had lost that match, we would be talking about her fragile mentality. We would be analyzing her unforced errors. We would be stripping her of her ranking points and her prize money. We would be blaming her. Instead, she saved herself. She did the job that tournament security failed to do. She identified the threat, she managed the threat, and she won the match. But she shouldn't have had to. The next time you see a player freeze on court, or cry during a changeover, or call for the supervisor when there seems to be no issue, don't assume they are choking. Don't assume they are soft. Look at the stands. Look at who is watching. Because sometimes the hardest opponent isn't the one holding a racket. We want to know what you think. Should the WTA allow players to submit a blacklist of individuals who are banned from buying tickets to their matches? Or is the public nature of the sport more important? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to understand exactly how the protected ranking system works and why Muchová was so desperate to defend those points, click the video on your screen right now. We did a full breakdown of the math that rules the tour. I'm NetCord News. Stay safe out there.